Wilmington, once North Carolina's largest city and home to a thriving African-American middle class, would become the site of the only violent overthrow of a city government in the history of our country. In the 1890s, African-American elected officials, along with church and business leaders, played a role in shaping the life of the city. Across the state, populists had joined with Republicans, black and white, in a fusion movement to defeat candidates of the predominantly white Democratic Party. The new fusion government advanced a more democratic system, allowing all men to participate fully in elections and to serve in political positions both locally and statewide. In Wilmington, the movement helped put fusionist candidates in office, where they reversed measures that once assured white Democrats perpetual control of the city. Democrats fought back, vowing to end what they termed Negro domination. As the elections of 1898 drew near, Wilmington became a flashpoint. Democrats believed they had to win in Wilmington if their white supremacy campaign was to succeed. Racial tension escalated when the Daily Record published an editorial by owner and editor Alex Manley. Responding to a speech by Rebecca Felton, a white Georgian who advocated lynching to protect white women from black men, Manley argued that white men had been pursuing relationships with black women for generations, and that some white women chose to be with black men. The white response was furious. Events in Wilmington soon turned violent. The day before the election, Wilmington Democrat Alfred Moore Waddell delivered a public threat.
If you find the Negro out voting, tell him to leave. If he refuses, shoot him down in his tracks. We shall win tomorrow if we have to do it with guns.
On Election Day, threats and intimidation by whites suppressed the black vote. Democrats won posts in Wilmington and also regained control of the state legislature. In Wilmington, prominent white leaders made the most of their political victory. Though the next election for the mayor and the board of aldermen was still months away, these men decided not to wait. They intended to purge the city government of black leaders and any support for black leadership. They gathered at the courthouse to announce a white Declaration of Independence.
We do hereby declare that we will no longer be ruled and will never again be ruled by men of African origin.
Among the requirements was that Alex Manley stop printing his newspaper and leave the city. To enforce their demands, the white men established a committee of 25, led by Waddell. They demanded a response from black leaders by 7:30 the next morning. African-American leaders quickly drafted a response intended to keep peace. The response did not reach Waddell by the appointed hour. He joined a gathering crowd at the Wilmington Light Infantry Armory, where shouts rose for a march on the Daily Record office. Waddell, a former Confederate officer, organized and led the march military style. The crowd grew into a mob, over 1,000 strong, and unleashed its fury, destroying the press and burning the newspaper building. About 11 a.m., shots rang out at 4th and Harnett. As one observer put it, hell jolted loose. The shooting erupted into a running firefight in the streets, moving deep into the African-American community. White leaders deployed the Wilmington Light Infantry to restore order. That afternoon, Waddell joined other white leaders and some 200 armed men at City Hall to force the resignation of the mayor and board of aldermen. They installed a new board with Waddell as mayor. These actions constituted an armed overthrow of a legally elected government, the only coup d'etat on record in the United States. Waddell fired all of the city's black employees and appointees. White Democrats led a campaign to banish African American leaders from the city under the threat of death. Thousands of African Americans fled the city, many never to return. A defiant few stayed in the face of harsh racial discrimination. At the state level, the new Democratic leadership began to consolidate power and passed the first so-called Jim Crow laws, which limited the legal rights of blacks and Indians in North Carolina. In 1901, G.H. White, a North Carolina Republican and the only African American remaining in Congress, finished his term, left politics, and moved out of the state.
This is perhaps the Negro's temporary farewell to the American Congress. But let me say, Phoenix-like, he will rise up someday and come again. These parting words are in behalf of an outraged, heartbroken, bruised, and bleeding, but God-fearing people. Faithful, industrious, loyal, rising people, full of potential force.